30 trades, yes, 30 trades we are going to be coming up with in today's video. So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? I have one trade that each NBA team should try to pull off this offseason. So yeah, there are going to be trades that involve maybe just picks, veterans, young prospects, superstar, blockbuster trades are all going to happen in this video. So if you guys do enjoy these videos, drop a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Can we hit 1,500 likes? I would be very appreciative if we can hit that. So yeah, we got 30 trades to talk about. I won't waste your time anymore. Let's get into the video. So we're going to start off with the Western Conference here, and we're going to be doing it by seeding from ascending order. So basically, we're going to start with the Utah Jazz, and I have a simple trade for them that I think that can improve their bench unit this offseason, and it is a swap of Eric Gordon for Royce O'Neal. Now, they do lose some defense with this trade, but they're getting some shooting, some off-ball movement, and they can afford to lose some defense. Like in their crunch time lineup, they'll still have Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, and Mike Conley out there. All great defenders, and Joe Ingles is still a solid defender as well, so they be able to afford losing the defensive ability by Royce O'Neal and adding one of the better three-point shooters in the NBA in Eric Gordon that can kind of space the floor a little bit for Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley. Because say then you have a lineup of Mitchell, Gordon, Conley, and Clarkson. All four of them can shoot the three, or even Bogdanovich or Ingles in there, and then you can afford just having Rudy Gobert there at the 5. Eric Gordon's a better shooter than Royce O'Neal. I like the trade a lot for Utah. Next up, we have the Phoenix Suns, who are currently in the NBA Finals as I'm recording this, and they would be sending Jalen Smith, their 10th overall pick, to the Orlando Magic in exchange for Mo Bamba. Now, this is a trade I like for the Suns. They're getting now the second center selected in the 2018 draft after already selecting DeAndre Ayton. So they're giving up on Jalen Smith a year early. They're getting Mo Bamba, who can space the floor more for Jalen Smith can for the Suns, and Bamba can also shoot, be that backup 5 for them to help them try to go back and defend their Western Conference crown next year. They can decide if they want to pay Bamba or not after this year, because he will be a free agent, so they won't be locked up into a salary long term if they believe Jalen Smith might be just a sunk cost at this point. Orlando would make sense for them because they can go out and have a big that was taken in the top 10 for 3 more years and see if they can help develop him to be their backup center for the future. And if they think that they're not going to pay Mo Bamba anyway, you might as well get something for him. Next up, we have the Denver Nuggets, who are making the biggest trade in this video so far, sending Jamal Murray, Bol, Zeke Naji, and 2 first-round picks to the Portland Trailblazers in exchange for Damian Lillard. So right here, this trade gets them over the hump. Probably the best team on paper in the Western Conference if they are able to pull off this trade, having a big 3 of Damian Lillard, Nikola Jokic, the reigning MVP, and Michael Porter Jr. You also would have nice complementary pieces around them, like Aaron Gordon, Monte Morris, Will Barton. We'll see what else they could do in the offseason as well. They get a top 10 player in the NBA, and I think just getting Damian Lillard and having a big 3 of MPJ, Jokic, and Lillard can make them the Western Conference favorites going into the season next year. I think they can go up against the Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz, the Suns, the Mavericks, any team in the Western Conference, and compete for a championship next year. And this is if Damian Lillard goes on the market. That's for the Blazers. They get a nice package in return, a young point guard in Jamal Murray, 2 young bigs in Bol and Zeke Naji, as well as 2 first-round picks. Moving on to the Clippers here, they are going out and getting the recently traded Kemba Walker from the Thunder in exchange for Patrick Beverley, Luke Kennard, and Terrence Mann. So the reason the Thunder would accept this, even though they do have to take on Patrick Beverley, is they get 2 young wings in Kennard and Terrence Mann. And after what Terrence Mann did in the playoffs against the Jazz, people might want him. So he's still a nice young asset that the Clippers now own. They're giving up on Patrick Beverley. Just the time is done there. They're going to move on. The Thunder can either waive Beverley or try to trade him. And for the Clippers, they're getting that primary ball handler, that 3rd scoring option behind Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They finally get that point guard that they've been looking for since they've acquired Paul George and Kawhi, and this is a trade right here that probably won't cost a lot to give up as long as the Thunder are getting either picks or young players in return for Kemba. We got the Dallas Mavericks here, a straight swap with the Portland Trailblazers. CJ McCollum going to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Kristaps Porzingis. This is really just all about the fit around Luka Doncic, and I think CJ McCollum just being that primary ball handler, but can be the secondary option in Dallas, somebody you can kind of rely on with more playoff experience than Kristaps Porzingis, would be a nice addition to the Dallas Mavericks to be that number 2 next to Luka. And speaking of the Blazers, they're going to go out and get Mitchell Robinson from the New York Knicks and the 21st pick in the NBA draft in exchange for Jusuf Nurkic. So the Knicks get a better center, and they might want to give up on Mitchell Robinson if they think he's never going to stay healthy, and he'll be a restricted free agent very soon, so maybe they don't want to pay him a lot of money, so they're going to get a more experienced veteran center in Jusuf Nurkic to try to help them go to the playoffs again next year. They would have to give up pick 21 in the draft, but maybe this could just be a straight swap. But for the Blazers, they're getting a little bit younger, and they're saving money with this trade, as well as getting a first-round pick that they could use on a wing like a Chris Duarte or Josh Christopher. So yeah, I do have both LA teams going out and trading for Kemba Walker. The Lakers will be getting Kemba Walker in exchange for KCP and Kyle Kuzma. So they do lose some shooting on the wing here, but they're getting that primary ball handler that could be the third option behind LeBron, behind AD. And AD, he's been a little bit of injury prone over the last couple years. So Kemba, he's going to be out there for them. Could provide them some 18 to 20 point per game scoring, would be an upgrade over Dennis Schroeder. And even with this trade, you could still bring back Schroeder, Harrell, and Drummond. You're just getting somebody right now that you can use the money on in Kemba Walker, a former All-Star, and is definitely a better player than KCP and Kyle Kuzma. And the last team that made the playoffs in the Western Conference is the Memphis Grizzlies, trading for Eric Gordon. Yeah, another Eric Gordon trade in exchange for Tyus Jones and 2 second-round picks. For the Rockets, they should really just kind of try to trade Eric Gordon for anything, even if it's for 2 seconds. Same with John Wall and Kelly Olynyk on that team. As well as for the Grizzlies, they're getting some nice shooting come off the bench, who would be on that unit with possibly Dylan Brooks or DeAnthony Melton, or really just provide some spacing around Triple J and John Morant for that starting 5, because we all know the Grizzlies are trying to get back in the playoffs next season. The Golden State Warriors are going to be getting Miles Turner in this trade in exchange for Kevon Mooney, James Wiseman, and their 14th pick in the draft. This is one of my favorite trades for the Warriors. I think they should really go out and try to get Miles Turner. If it really just costs them Wiseman and maybe a first, it might not even cost them pick 14. Like maybe the Pacers like Wiseman enough where they could just do a straight swap, but Miles Turner on this team would be great for them because they wouldn't have to trade Andrew Wiggins as well. So they got the Splash Bros, Wiggins, Miles Turner, and Draymond Green in the front court. Yeah, that can get the Warriors definitely in the Western Conference final contention next season. The San Antonio Spurs are in a weird position, but I like this trade a lot for them. They'd be getting JaMychal Green, Zeke Naji, and a first-round pick in this year's draft in exchange for Derek White to the Nuggets. So for the Nuggets, I actually love the acquisition of Derek White. Maybe I should have had this trade for them in their incoming asset, but I like the idea of a Jamal Murray, Derek White backcourt, and then you got MPJ, Gordon, and Jokic. As well as for the Spurs, you're still not really in the Western Conference playoff contention. LaMarcus Aldridge retired after you bought him out. DeMar DeRozan's most likely leaving. Might as well get a young big and a 20s first-round pick here in exchange for Derek White. Another Miles Turner trade here is going to be the New Orleans Pelicans getting Miles Turner in exchange for Jackson Hayes, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and the 10th overall pick in this year's draft. The reason the Pelicans have to give up an additional young player compared to the Warriors in a Miles Turner trade is because James Wiseman is definitely a lot more valuable at this moment than Jackson Hayes, but getting Miles Turner to have in that front court with Zion Williamson would just be phenomenal for Zion's development. He could space the floor, he can rim protect, it would just be a great fit there, and your 3-4-5 being Ingram, Zion, and Turner can help you try to get back into the playoffs, which they haven't done since I believe 2018. The Sacramento Kings are making a swap of big men in the 2018 draft. They're going to be sending the Orlando Magic Marvin Bagley in exchange for Mo Bamba and the 2023 first round pick that they got from the Bulls in the Nikola Vucevic trade. The reason that the Orlando Magic have to give up another first round pick in this trade instead of it being a Bamba for Bagley swap is because Bagley has definitely been better in his 3-year career over Mo Bamba and has shown he could be a starting caliber big in the league. Now he definitely needs to work on his defensive ability, and maybe he can do that in Orlando playing next to Jonathan Isaac. That could be great for his development. As for the Kings, they're getting a first round pick. They're getting Mo Bamba. Maybe they'd like Mo Bamba to be their next future long-term backup or starting center, seeing if they are going to pay Rashawn Holmes or not. And they're also adding more draft capital for the 2023 draft. Third to last Western Conference trade here is one I love. It's the first one that includes Ben Simmons. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves going out and getting him in exchange for D'Lo, Josh Okogie, and a 2023 lottery protected first round pick. I just think Ben Simmons next to Cat would be a great fit for them. They've been looking for that franchise power forward to put next to Cat that can help him out on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, you'd want one that could possibly space the floor, but finding power forwards that could both space the floor and defend at a high level, it's really hard to find. So I would just take what you can get. You take Ben Simmons, you would have a Ricky Rubio, Malik Beasley, Anthony Edwards, Ben Simmons, and Cat starting 5. Yeah, that can get them finally back in the playoffs for the first time since 2018. The Thunder here are going to be making a trade with the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is if the Cavs don't want to pay Jared Allen. They would be doing a sign and trade Jared Allen to the Thunder in exchange for the 16th overall pick in this draft that they got from the Kemba Walker trade, as well as the 2022 first round pick that they got in the Chris Paul trade. I'd like this addition for the Thunder because they really don't have their long-term center at the moment. They have bigs like Poku and Darius Baisley, but going out and getting Jared Allen I think would be a nice fit for this team's young core. And then the final Western Conference trade here is the Houston Rockets getting Tristan Thompson and 2 second-round picks and trading Eric Gordon to the Celtics. And yeah, like I said before with the Eric Gordon trades, just getting any picks you can for Eric Gordon is a step in the right direction for the Houston Rockets. So let's start off the Eastern Conference with a bang. The Philadelphia 76ers are going to be trading for Damian Lillard and Robert Covington in exchange for Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, and 4 first-round picks picks. This puts the 76ers possibly as title favorites with a starting five of Damian Lillard, Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, Robert Covington, and Joel Embiid. That team is so good offensively, defensively, shooting, inside scoring. I think that they should definitely go out and trade Ben Simmons to Portland for Damian Lillard if Damian Lillard does request a trade out of Portland. Moving on to Brooklyn here, this is a trade that would just be phenomenal for the Nets, but this would only work if Spencer Dinwiddie would agree to a sign and trade. So the Nets would be getting Malcolm Brogdon. The Pacers would be getting Spencer Dinwiddie, like I said, in a sign and trade, Nicholas Claxton, and the Nets' first round pick in this year's draft. The Pacers get a solid return in exchange for Brogdon, a player they might not want to pay when his contract expires very soon. They get a young player. Nicholas Claxton could be a backup big for them and is definitely a better player than Goga Bitadze this far in his career. They get another first round pick in this year's draft, as well as their first round pick in the lottery, and Spencer Dinwiddie can help them compete next year, and Dinwiddie might agree to this because you'd get a high volume role in Indiana, as well as he'd be able to play with his former backcourt member in Karis LeVert. The Nets, they get a phenomenal shooter, passer, defender, and yeah, just getting Malcolm Brogdon as their fourth best player would just be an incredible pickup for them trying to win the championship next year. The Milwaukee Bucks would be sending Pat Connaughton and 2 second-round picks to the Orlando Magic here in exchange for Terrence Ross, and I actually love this trade for Milwaukee, getting an off-screen shooter that can come off the bench and just provide them some scoring that they need. They have PJ Tucker and Dante DiVincenzo, kind of the two bench players for them throughout the season that were their sixth men. None of them can really go out and score 20 points a night. I'm not saying that Terrence Ross will always do that, but he could just go off from random nights and just score 15, 25, 27 points for them on random nights, something they need desperately to come off their bench. They need that scoring in that second unit. Going out and getting Terrence Ross for Pat Connaughton and 2 second-round picks is a steal to me. The New York Knicks would be doing a sign-and trade, in this case with the New Orleans Pelicans. They'd be getting Lonzo Ball in exchange for Frank Ntilikina, Kevin Knox, and a first-round pick. The reason the Pelicans would agree to this, because, hey, they're getting something in return for Lonzo Ball, somebody they might not bring back anyway because they don't want to pay him, similar to what the Pacers did with the Milwaukee Bucks a couple years ago with Malcolm Brogdon. They'd get two young players. Hey, they might not crack the rotation at all, but at least you can maybe make something out of them, as well as getting a first-round pick in 2023 for a player that might lose anyway. And Lonzo Ball for the Knicks is just a match made in heaven for them. He'd be able to make RJ Barrett better, Julius Randle better, and help them try to go to the playoffs for the second straight season. A team that was just in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Atlanta Hawks, would be sending their first-round pick, which is in the late 20s, to the LA Clippers in exchange for Patrick Beverley. So for the Hawks, it's pretty much a low-cost point guard they can get in Patrick Beverley that can help their defense. Their second unit defense isn't great when it comes to their wings and guards, and getting Patrick Beverley can help them out on their second unit. That's kind of what they wanted either Rondo or Chris Dunn to be. Neither one of them really worked out, so you can trade your first round pick in the late 20s and get Patrick Beverley. It's not like you really need to use that first round pick because you already have a ton of young core players in Okongwu, Reddish, Hunter, Trae Young, Kevin Huerter. They can really afford to spend their 2021 first round pick on a defensive point guard. The Miami Heat season ended in just massive disappointment after getting swept to the Milwaukee Bucks after winning the Eastern Conference last year in 2020. They'd be going out and getting recently traded Kemba Walker from the Thunder in exchange for Andre Iguodala, Kendrick Nunn, and a 2024 lottery protected first round pick. It would go to 2 second round picks if they don't make the playoffs in 2024. So I think this is a low cost trade for the Miami Heat that can work out, getting Kemba Walker, somebody that can definitely help out their floor spacing. You got Kemba and Duncan Robinson in that backcourt, and then you'd have Jimmy and Bam, and then you kind of find out who your 4 is going to be next year. I like that trade a lot for the Heat, who are trying to win a playoff series again after losing in 4 to the Bucks in 2021. Next up, we have the Boston Celtics and the third Miles Turner trade in this video. They'd be getting Miles Turner in exchange for Tristan Thompson, Aaron Nesmith, a first round pick, and 2 seconds. Miles Turner would just help out this team mightily, being able to be that stretch big for them who could space the floor. It would help out Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to provide some inside scoring for them and helping them out really just with floor spacing in general. Good rim protector. I love this trade for Boston. So yeah, there's 3 teams that I love to go out and getting Miles Turner this offseason. The Pelicans, the Warriors, and the Celtics. I'm hoping one of them can pull it off. And then the final playoff team in the Eastern Conference is the Wizards. Yeah, they're going to be starting their rebuild, trading Bradley Beal to the 76ers in exchange for Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, and a first round pick. I think you got to trade Bradley Beal. He might leave in free agency in 2022. Getting a player that finished second in Defensive Player of the Year voting, getting a player that was on all defensive second team, and getting Tyrese Maxey, who showed that he could be a good scorer at such a young age on a good team, is just a great package. In return, you also get the Sixers first round pick in this draft. You help out your defense for the future, and your young core would be those 3 players there are 2 first-round picks in this trade that you get here from the Sixers, as well as your first-round pick, as well as Denny Avdia and Rui Hachimura. That's a nice start to the rebuild for the Wizards. And speaking of Ben Simmons, I have another one. So this one was recently turned down by the Sixers, which I don't know why, because I like it a lot. So if the Sixers can't get a Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal, I like this trade a lot for them. It'd be Ben Simmons to the Pacers in exchange for Jeremy Lamb, Malcolm Brogdon, and a first-round pick. Because I'd rather have Malcolm Brogdon, Lamb, and a first-round pick than Kemba Walker, than Colin Sexton, than D'Angelo Russell. So I really like this trade a lot for the Sixers. That's why I think the Pacers should go out and do it. Acquire Ben Simmons, help out your defense. He's under contract going forward. And who knows? Yeah, maybe Simmons, LeVert, Sabonis, and Turner, and Warren could make the playoffs next year. The Hornets are making a swap here with the Dallas Mavericks. They're going to be trading them Terry Rozier and their first-round pick in the draft for Kristaps Porzingis, a player they could put at the 5. You'd have LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, Kristaps Porzingis as your 5-man lineup. Yeah, that could definitely go to the playoffs next year. Next up, we have another sign and trade with Lonzo Ball, and it is the Chicago Bulls getting Ball in exchange for Kobe White. So I think Kobe White could be more valuable of a package than Ntilikina, Knox, and a first-round pick in 2023. So the Bulls are really just outbidding the New York Knicks here in exchange for Lonzo Ball, who would just be an amazing pickup for them to really distribute and facilitate for Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, Larry Markkinen, and Nikola Vucevic. The Raptors would be acquiring Jared Allen in a sign and trade here with the Cleveland Cavaliers in exchange for Chris Boucher and a first-round pick. It gives you kind of just a better defensive big because Chris Boucher kind of struggled at the 5. He was better as a 4. Yes, this hurts your floor spacing a little bit, but it improves your defense and rim protection. You'd have Siakam at the 4 anyway, so you'd have Allen at the 5. You'd still have Anunoby, possibly Jalen Suggs, Fred VanVleet. I like this trade a lot for the Raptors, who are definitely trying to make it to the playoffs again in 2022. Third to last trade here, we have the Cavs getting Andre Iguodala and Trevor Ariza in exchange for Kevin Love. Yeah, this really doesn't make the Cavs better at all, but they just finally get off the Kevin Love contract. They'll get off pretty much all that money a year early. It would have to be a sign and trade with Trevor Ariza. Maybe it'll be like a 1-year deal with 15 mil. And I think the Cavs would be willing to give him 15 mil if they just got off the Kevin Love contract a year earlier. You've seen this trade before. It's the Orlando Magic trading picks 5 and 8 to Chicago for pick 3. They can go out and get Jalen Green with this pick because their young core of Cole, Fultz, Hampton, Okeke, Wendell Carter Jr., Baba, all of those players really can't shoot at a level you'd want out of kind of somebody you're giving the keys to the franchise to. So going out, trading up for Jalen Green would be a great decision. And the reason the Cavs could do this is because they can get Scotty Barnes, possibly they can get Davion Mitchell, as well as Jonathan Kuminga to kind of just add to their young core who are still rebuilding. And then finally, we have the Detroit Pistons trading Rajon Rondo for Mason Plumlee. Serge Ibaka could possibly leave, so they might look for a replacement in Mason Plumlee. As for the Pistons, Rajon Rondo could help mentor Cade Cunningham and help mentor Killian Hayes, as well as he'd be off his contract a year earlier than Mason Plumlee. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you liked or disliked what I came up with your favorite team down below. Was there maybe a trade idea that I didn't come up with? Please let me know all that down below. If you guys did enjoy, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up on this video. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.